Hey, it's Christoph Jenkins, founder and creator of The Poet Life. And listen, y'all, it is season 6 of the Poet Life podcast. And it's been almost a year and a half since I've been behind this microphone in front of this screen. And I am absolutely amazed and excited to be back with you all. And it's a lot has changed, a lot has happened. I put down the mic for about a year and a half, mainly because I had to focus on the business, trying to manage podcasts and gain clientele and enhance our services and things of that nature. Business comes first. I got to be honest. Business comes first. But I'm back in it. I've learned so much more, and I'm excited to provide some more value to you all. Now, this first episode of season 6 is going to be a little different. As you can see, I'm already here with uh, a, a, a business partner of mine, a friend of mine, a fellow poet, uh, Lula, Portia the poet. Really excited to have her because we are going to do the origin story of the poet life, which means I'm not the host today. I am actually the guest, and Lula, she's going to introduce herself, is the host for today. So, Lula, thank you so much for indulging me.
Yeah.
Lula is our media director at the Poet Life, and so she's been doing an amazing job. And you'll see what happens here. You'll see how amazing she is. Lula, what's going on?
Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
All right. Awesome. Everything's going on. Season 6 of the Poet Life podcast. Yo, this is amazing. I'm so excited to be able to open up and build another foundation with the Poet Life, and opening up the season 6 is such a beautiful thing. The number 6 within itself has everything to do with business relationships, family growth, connecting more. So shout out to the Poet Life and podcast season 6. I hope you guys are excited, just excited as we are. Once again, my name is Portia the Poet, CEO and founder of Lyrical Healing, the most intentional platform there is. I am a poet at heart. I've been writing poetry since 6th grade, and it's became not only a lifestyle, but a career for me. I'm located here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I've been hosting poetry events for the past 4 years. And I've morphed those events to not only incorporating music and art, but also acting and film. So if you guys want to know a little bit more about me, tap into my social media at Portia the Poet. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get this interview / conversation going. Season 6, episode 1. Christoph Jenkins, CEO and founder of The Poet Life. Wow. Can you give me just some insight on the foundation of the Poet Life and its origin story?
Man, I haven't had that question asked in a while, and it's just interesting how things played out. I'll be honest with you. Uh, the Poet Life was a byproduct, actually, of where we started with fighting cancer with poetry. If you look over my shoulder, there's a painting there that was painted about 8 years ago, and an artist, a visual artist, who partnered with us for a what we call a poetry jam fundraiser for cancer. We were raising funds and awareness for cancer, and we would put on these poetry events where we galvanize poets from everywhere, busboys and poets and other places, and all of the poets would write and perform poetry in relation to cancer and cancer related poetry. And we would raise thousands of dollars and donate it to cancer research and families who have been affected by cancer. And so that actual program of that organization, Fighting Cancer with Poetry, came from a friend of mine who was diagnosed with osteosarcoma cancer. We were raised together pretty much in the same church. Justin Islar, he was diagnosed with osteosarcoma cancer at the age of 18, freshman year at Coppin State University
Mm.
in Baltimore. And, he was struck with that illness and fought for 7 years, and unfortunately succumbed to his illness at the age of 25. Um,
Wow.
and so it was wild because when he passed, I didn't know that he didn't start writing poetry until after he was diagnosed with cancer. And so that just told and showed me that if he could use poetry as a healing mechanism, as a coping mechanism, a way to uh, find peace, and but also to leave a legacy, right? Right? Because his poetry now lives on through us and throughout the world. Because after he passed, I asked his mother if I could write the obituary poem, and so I actually had to ask her a question. I said, "Can you do me a favor? Can you indulge me? Can you just talk to me about Justin?" And she just poured out and shared with me, and I kind of translated all of what she said into that particular obituary poem. You know, that poem in the back of the bulletin,
Mhm.
right? And from there, a year later, the year after his passing, first year anniversary, um, it was around New Year. So he passed January 2nd, 2012. So 1212.
Mhm.
And I wanted to I wanted to make sure that his family did not spend New Year's just in it, you right? Just super sad for New Year's. They have to do that every year, every New Year's. That's a tough situation, right? New Year's is usually supposed to be exciting. Can't wait for the new year, and so that's there for them. And so I wanted to make sure that they had family surrounding them. And so I was inviting uh, friends and family folks from the church. And ultimately, it ended up like a whole event. There were so many people that were saying, I hear that you're putting on for the Islar family. I want to come. I want to come. And so I actually had to rent out the church basement, so all of the people that were interested in contributing their time, their efforts, and their money ended up being 75 people there. And it was a whole program. We ended up raising like $4,000 and donated to the organization that Justin was connected with, trying to find, the cure for his form of cancer. Long story short, after the event, they were like, "All right, so what do we do now?" I'm like, "We go home." What do you mean? No, like, this was amazing. So do we start a nonprofit? Like, what do we, right? And so, lo and behold, I never do anything just to do something, right? And it has to lead into something more. And so that's what that happened. I started a nonprofit called Fighting Cancer with Poetry, and I ran that nonprofit for roughly 3 to 4 years, leading up to I think 2015 or so. And now a nonprofit really is a nonprofit. It's
Yeah.
nonprofit. And I didn't know how to, build out a salary and all of that. And so I said to myself, I don't want to stop this. So what I need to do, because I need funds, it took a lot of time, it took a lot of money out of my pocket to keep this nonprofit running. And so I said, I want to start a for-profit that is in the same lane of poetry. And so I didn't just start go to sell cookies or something like that where it didn't make sense. You know what I mean? I built a community and a brand of poetry, and affecting a great cause. So I said, I want to start a for-profit, and it has to be about poetry. And for the longest, I've been trying to figure out how and where there's money in poetry. How can I really start a business? And I started going deep and deep into page like 17 of Google. you
Wow.
like, where's the money in poetry? And
Right.
I got to a page in Google where I found an article on Bloomberg or some business website where they interviewed these poets that found a way to start making money with their poetry, and they wrote haiku, right? And they got hired to write haiku on typewriters at parties and events. And I was just like, yo, what is this? What's going on here? Okay. And the article was just saying how they've been able to create a living through poetry and this format of how they presented their poetry. And so I'm telling you, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was that
Wow.
engulfed in it, and like right then and there, I got on uh, was not Amazon, but eBay. I got on eBay.com, and I purchased a typewriter that night.
You got right to
I got
it.
on social media and just started typing the haiku out, and I didn't want to reach out to them because I wanted to, uh, start posting my haiku, and I wanted them to find me. I wanted to create value, show them that I was serious. A lot of what I teach, right? To show them that I was serious. I just wanted to reach out for a handout. Hey, they found me ultimately after about several months and said, hey, we're out in New York. We're actually coming to DC on Amtrak, and meet us at Union Station with your typewriter. And they interviewed me and tested my haiku skills by freestyle. They gave me a topic or something like that, and to see how fast I could knock out a haiku and how clever it could be. I was just like, yo, this is dope.
Yeah.
This is different, and all of that started to light up within me. If you all want to check them out, they're called Haikuists. They used to be called the Haiku Guys, but now they're Haikuists. You can find them on Instagram and their website, haikuist.com, I believe. And I still work with them. I've been working with them ever since, and it's 2023. So we're talking roughly 8 to 9 years, like around 2014, 2015. But that right there opened my mind to the possibilities of poetry. And then the for profit for me was the Poet Life. And actually, it started off as a clothing line called Poet Life Gear. Because for me, I wanted to see poets in uniform almost, right? Like, because so many times at open mics, poets just, they just came from work and go straight to the stage, and
Yeah.
all is well with that. But like, if we're going to take things to the next level and be taken serious, like if you're looking at me right now, you can tell that I'm serious about what I do because I have a polo with my logo on it, Poet Life, right? So when people see that representation, they're like, okay, he's a little serious about this poetry thing here, right? And so I wanted poets to be represented and to present themselves as professionals, and they had somewhere to go to actually get some clothing where they could walk down the street and be recognized as a professional poet. That's where Poet Life Gear came. And then it just started to evolve just based on the need and the demand of education, engagement, and entertainment. So I know that was a long story, but that's where it all came from and where we are now. Let's get into it.
It's time to create an unforgettable experience at your next event with the Poet Life by booking a keynote poet. Poets excite your audience with motivating messages, charismatic delivery, colorful rhythm, powerful prose, and heart-filled stories with a style of spoken word that's tailored specifically to your event. The Poet Life has keynote poets in your city of all ages and backgrounds.
Visit thepoetlife.com to learn more and book your poet today.
Wow, that was very emotional. That was very that was very emotional. I didn't realize that I would be evoked like that. I had to swallow tears.
Yeah.
I definitely want to just send out some prayers for Justin because his life created the poet life, you know. So there's this saying that when someone passes on, someone else, something else is born. So that transaction that you guys shared was wow. That's very, very powerful. I had no idea that the Poet Life had transitioned from a cancer foundation. Wow. So is the foundation still going strong?
So good question. Good question. So actually, what I did, because I knew that I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into one thing, right? Because poetry is just so vast
Right.
that I dissolved the nonprofit and now it's a program under the auspices of the Poet Life, right? And so we still do events and we still do fundraisers and things of that nature. And so the mission is still there, right? And that's why I have the painting up, and we were doing events at the White House when Barack Obama was the president, and on the national lawn in D.C. Right, and so we plan to like really get heavy back into it. But yes, it is still the mission is still on, but the nonprofit isn't. We currently transition nonprofits. Now we have Poet Life Academy, where we teach kids how to express themselves through poetry.
Okay, cool. I think that we should definitely keep incorporating Justin's legacy into that and
Definitely.
making sure that we keep his legacy alive. Because I feel like the more we pour into his legacy, the more the legacy of the poet life will expand. So
Indeed.
I think we definitely should build on that. Okay, cool. That's beautiful. Wow. Okay. Well, I think that because I'm pretty new with, building a relationship with you. I've had opportunity to talk to you about a few things, but I haven't had an opportunity to really like pick your brain. So I wanted to know, well, I wanted you to share with me the first client that you pitched a project to. And this can be a client that you got turned down with, or a client that ended up being a success with. Just share that story with us.
Okay. Good. 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 I like that. So here's the thing. There's been some, instances where we've done some work, but like our first service, honestly, really was when my daughter, my oldest daughter, roughly around when she first started school, like
Mhm.
preschool, and I was in the school owner's office talking to her about my daughter or something. I can't remember what it was about, and I think I had a Poet Life hat on, and we were talking, and then she just mentioned, she said, "I like that hat. Tell me about it. Do you work with kids?" I was like, "Yeah, we help kids express themselves in poetry." She was like, "Okay, do you teach classes? And do you have curriculums and things of that nature?" I was like, "Yeah." We didn't have anything at the time, but I saw where the conversation was going.
Yeah.
Knew there was a question of, can you do that for us? And so lo and behold, the question came, and she said, "Well, can you send me something?" I said, and it was a Friday, and I said, "Not a problem." So once give me the weekend, give me the weekend, and I'll email you what we have going on. We would love to work with you. And I'm saying 2 weeks later, we were in the classroom, as in we, when I say we, I mean, it was just me. But when we got the opportunity, I knew futuristically that I didn't necessarily want to be planted in the classroom as the teacher and as the CEO. And so that was my opportunity to hire another poet who was great with kids. Right? And a friend of mine, Lucky, I'm not sure if you're familiar with her here in the DMV. She's an awesome poet, but she also is great with kids. And so she actually taught the class, the first class, I think it was a Monday. Uh, they had us in at the school twice a week, I think Mondays and Wednesdays, if I'm not mistaken. And the first class, the owner of the school came in and saw how engaged the children were, right? It wasn't deep poetry because it was preschool, but it was a lot of fun, interactive activity. And she just shook her head and walked off. And so I was like, okay, is that a good shake or not? But afterwards, she told me, she said, how did you get little, I don't know the kid's name, but how did you get little John to, you know, feel engaged? Because we couldn't get John to talk, at all. And that was a sign to show me and her that poetry is functional, poetry is educational. I mean, people forget poetry taught us how to read, right?
Right.
And so she told me when I left the class, she said, texted a friend of mine who owns a business where she has an after school program in several schools. She said, I texted her and told her what I just saw, and she wants to meet with you. 2 weeks later, we were at 3 more schools. So in a month, in less than a month, we were in 4 schools. Blew my
Wow.
mind.
Yeah.
It's
That was a
like
domino effect.
domino effect, showing excellence in what you do and opening your mouth. The biggest thing, like there are so many poets that have friends and family that don't know they're poets,
Right.
right? And so to answer your question, I was just bold enough to say, yes, I have services, and that was our first opportunity, and it just started to expand. And in the end, we ended up in about 12 schools in the DMV doing after-school programs, in-school programs, and that's how things started there. And it's just been great, And I simply want to keep sharing as I go forward with other poets that may be in the same position, behind my position, in front of my position, wherever they are. I want to show them the possibilities of poetry.
Right. I think that's important. I think that's really important. But I feel like for me, I'm coming to realize that what's even more important is opening up the door for poets who don't even know that they are poets.
Mm-hmm.
And actually breeding poets. So what advice would you give to, or what tools would you use to engage, not even necessarily just the younger community, but an artist or an individual who's just a regular 9 to 5 person to get them more interested in poetry?
Got you. So you're asking someone that is currently not so much in poetry to get engaged with poetry?
Yes.
Mm. You know, it's the relatability. I, for those lay persons, if you will, the people that are like, poetry, you know, um, my question is, I already know they like rap. Who's your favorite rapper? And I'll go in that direction. And I ask, if we turn the music off and the beat, if we turn the beat off and it was just the lyrics, would you still appreciate that? Right? Like people study Tupac's lyrics. read them in a book and listen to the lyrics as poetry. And so, what would be the difference? You see what I'm saying?
Bridge that gap. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Kanye West was on the Poetry Jam once.
All of them was.
Right? Right.
Everybody was on Def Jam Poetry.
But, you know, he was already an artist then, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, right? I believe. And he just did one of his songs without the music, and it was straight poetry. So the question is, what's the difference? Why? Because it started off as, in your mind, started off as rap. Would you be still attracted to the lyrics and the poetry, but not the other way, where it started as poetry? And, and I understand most people, the extent of their knowledge of poetry is when they were in high school and they were studying and analyzing dead poets' poetry.
Yeah.
Right? The
Bit boring.
Edgar
Yeah.
Allan Poe's and but not the current life experiences in today's spoken word poetry. And right. And so I get it. I understand why they aren't, but I would just say open your mind to the possibilities of how functional and educational and how awesome poetry is and how awesome poets are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the angle I would take.
Okay. So what's your process? I've never really heard any of your poetry. I do kind of want to like challenge you to do some little freestyle poetry if you open to that. But I first want to know your process. Let's get the seat warm first. But what's your process with writing?
So for me, and here's some a gem, if you will, just for people in general, because when I first started, I thought I had to be a spoken word poet, because that was the rave, and it still is. You know what I mean? And that like kind of held me in bondage almost, because I don't have the passion for the stage, and I don't have the passion for memorizing and that work of the poetry. The passion for me is the writing, right? And so when I first started, um, I tried my hand at spoken word. I did well, and when uh, Trayvon Martin was killed, I was at all the rallies performing a piece that I wrote related to. Have you seen the movie? Shoot, it was a Denzel Washington movie, and there was a poem in
John
that
Q.
movie. No, the poem was "Who Will Cry for the Little Boy."
Mm-hmm.
Man, I forgot the name of the movie, but I kind of took the rhythm of that and reworded the poem in relation to Trayvon Martin. And I was on the circuit as far as these rallies that were happening during that time. But again, for me, the passion was the pen and the paper, not so much the stage. And so, my father, when I was younger, because I was frustrated, I was like, man, I love poetry, but I don't love the stage. Like, what do I do? I still want to get my poetry out there. He was like, well, what if you did this? Because this is another element of the possibilities of poetry. He said, what if, like songwriters who don't know how to sing, what if you wrote poetry, the love and passion that you have for writing poetry? What if you partnered with and matched your passion for writing with actors and those who have a passion for the stage, and you created poetic productions? I was like, oh man, I got into that super heavy, started getting booked as that poetic production, where I was creating dialogue conversations, but in poetry form. And I got my first opportunity at a church. I got paid $300, and it was a dialogue between two people. And the dialogue was rhymage and standing ovation. And I was just like, I think I found my lane to where ultimately, one day soon, I haven't done it yet, but one day soon, I will create a play where instead of them starting busting out, start singing, they'll just start with spoken word, in one of those scenes and things of that nature. So I'm a page poet for me, and I love
Gotcha.
haiku, and so that's where I am. But I did want to share that because there's a lot of poets that are in bondage because they feel like they can't be a poet if they're not a spoken word poet. And you got the people outside of poetry that says, "Oh, you're a poet, so well, give me something, perform something." Well, that's not what I do. Oh, you ain't a poet, you ain't a poet. And then they get on this side from the poets that say the same thing. So they're just like, you know what?
Hmm.
I'm putting down the pen. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to share in relation to that.
Okay. Well, and what I'm getting from that is, and it's so much confirmation in that. What I'm getting from that is, we have to find our lane. We have to find what works for us,
There you
what
go.
we're most comfortable with, and where we can still express ourselves in totality, but it doesn't have to be the same way that another poet does. Because for
Yes.
me, I'm a very emotional poet, so
Mhm.
performing would be my one of my strong points because I want to be able to visually show that emotion. But with a poet like yourself, you're more so on the programming of the poetry, the writing of it. So we could come
Yes.
together and make a powerhouse. And I feel like that's kind of to how you build those relationships and collaborations. Because with
Yes.
your words and with my physical imagery, that's a masterpiece.
That's what it is. And that's what the industry of poetry looks like. It's like, oh, your strength is this. Oh, your strength is this. Let's bring our strengths together. Like, let's not spend all of our time on our weaknesses. Right? Let's kind of focus. Yeah, let's not just let our weaknesses be weaknesses. We'll spend some time on it, but like we're not gonna spend all of our time on
Right.
our weaknesses. We're gonna leverage our strengths so we can move forward. So yeah, definitely.
Definitely. So with your writing structure, do you have a chronological order that you go in? Is there a subject, title, body, ending, and conclusion, or is it just sporadic and come, by second nature?
Yeah, so it's interesting for me. I don't really write poetry for me for whatever reason. I actually have the ability to write poetry in the voice of others. I can
Mm,
translate a conversation. I can translate a paragraph into a beautiful poem, right? And I can translate, someone's emotions into a poem. I my frat brother called me once and said, "Hey, it's my anniversary. I need something like really. I need to do something different. I've been doing this, that, and the third. Could you write me a poem?" And I'll pay you in this, that, and the third. Pay me $100 to write a poem for his wife. And and I said, okay, cool. It's not just going to be any old poem. I need you to again tell me about your wife,
right.
right? So it's not a default poem or just about random poem about love. And so I said, I need you. You don't even have to verbalize it. Just type. Just tell me about you and email it to me. Page that he typed translated into a poem. And I said, make sure you incorporate some terminology and some names, nicknames, and terms that she would recognize and smile over. Man, he called me the next day and was like, that was the best $100 I've ever spent.
I know
because
that's right.
at first he was like $100. Well, that's a whole lot of money for a poem. And I said, well, just here's the thing. Don't think about the money you spend. Just think about the response you're going to get. He was like, oh, okay. Right. And so he was like, man, that was the best investment. Right. And that's another thing that I teach the poets. Like, don't be so afraid to name your price because you're confident in your services. You know that you're going to crush it. Right. So because you can pretty much guarantee an awesome experience, they're going to forget how much you paid or how much they paid because they're going to see it as an investment and they got their return on their investment. And so to answer your question, um, poetry is like a puzzle. I determine my direction, meaning the theme and the topic, and sometimes I just write, I free write, and get the thoughts out there and kind of shift it around. So sometimes the first part will be the end. You know what I mean? I
Okay.
just get the thoughts on paper, and sometimes it's a rhymey poem. Sometimes it's not. So I have the ability to do the spoken word, even in page form, to where those who read it uh, can't, because sometimes spoken word poems are hard to read on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Because the spoken word poet will say a line differently and with a different tone, and right. And
Right.
so I'm very cognizant of that to where I write in a way they're not like, how do you, which way was he trying to say, with what
Got
tone? Yeah. So I'm very strategic in that way, because I know the difference. But to answer your question, it's like a puzzle for me. So I kind of move things around and see
it.
how they best present in the end.
Oh wow, that's interesting. So,
Yeah.
is there a good poem, a good poem, and a bad poem, or is poetry just poetry? It doesn't have a level of greatness.
There's a good poem and there's a bad
Yeah, I agree.
poem.
I agree. There's some good ones and
We're
some
not
bad.
even going to play that game, is
Yeah.
there? Now, at the same time, if you feel your poem was great, great. However, I am always open to constructive criticism. Always open to
Always.
it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm always open to learning and enhancing my presentation. So, hey, if this wasn't but it also can be just this isn't your cup of tea because some people don't like rhymey poems, right? So
Yeah.
so yeah, but I've written a rhymey poem once, for my stepfather's funeral, and my stepbrother was like, I don't usually like rhymey poems, but I like them. Not just for the emotion of it, because that was my father, but I like the way you structured it. It wasn't da 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 da. It wasn't that. It was still spoken word ish through the rhyme scheme. So
Okay. Well, referring to the poet life, I know that you've got a natural niche for connecting with the clients and things like that, and it's pretty much like secondhand nature by now. But has there ever been a moment in time where you had a difficult time acquiring a client, where it took you some time to actually get on their good side?
yeah, definitely, definitely. It's a skill in acquiring clients. It's a skill that you have to learn and fail at. That's a skill too, to be okay with the no's. You have to
Mm,
be, yeah, the skill,
that's big.
and it should be a confidence I was going to say confidence builder, but most people are like, how would it build your confidence? Um, for me, it builds my confidence in the fact that I've stayed consistent, because if you think about it
That's
like this, right? If you think about it like this, it is not the yeses and the nos, it's the reps. If you commit to the reps, meaning the repetition, the consistency of, okay, I'm going to reach out to 50 people this week, whether they say yes or no.
right.
And through my commitment and my consistency, I'm going to get better. It's inevitable that you will get better at a thing, because you'll, okay, I know I kind of stuttered right there. I was a little nervous. Maybe I can say it a little differently next time. Okay, she almost said yes this time, but I think I said something wrong, right? And so it isn't about, um, man, this ain't working. They said no 10 times. Well, what about that 11th time? You stopped at 10, and that 11th person was going to say yes, because you got better with your pitch. You've done it 10 times, right? Where they said, what's it, 10,000 hours, I believe, or something like that,
Yeah.
right? In those 10,000 hours, they didn't say anything about how many yeses and nos. It just said, put in the time and get the experience, and eventually you'll get so good because you had so many no's that you know how not to get a no. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
for me,
That's mastery.
it was the consistency that I committed to, and by a byproduct of the consistency, we started to see some yeses. Now, here's the thing: I'm huge on building brand, so it only takes one yes to get this whole ball rolling. What I mean by that is, you get one yes, and then you start documenting your process with that yes. Because now, when I say documenting your process, I mean publicly documenting your process,
Right.
showing the work, right? It's a show and tell. Show them and explain how and why and what, right? And so by them seeing you do the work, there's other organizations that are hearing about you and seeing you do the work. They're like, oh, so he can do that.
Yeah.
So,
All
oh,
of that.
he's working with that organization. If they believe in him, then we need to as well. And then the other organizations start to hop on as well, to where we don't have to pitch as much. So it's been a while where we really haven't had to do a lot of pitching. We've just been doing a lot of accepting, because people were reaching out to us.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so on a bigger scale, I'm a big believer in manifestation, and I'm pretty sure there's some organizations and people that's going to be tuning in to the Poet Life podcast. So, what three organizations, major organizations, are you looking forward to working with?
I like that. I like how you think. That's why we work together. It's beautiful.
Yes, absolutely.
I honestly want to work with an NBA team. I want to work with an NBA team. I know it's possible because one of our previous guests, Blues, Bluz, his Instagram is Blues, out of Charlotte.
Yep.
You know him. Right?
Yep.
He works with, he worked with NASCAR. He works with the Charlotte Hornets. And so if you haven't seen that episode, go check Check that out. So I can't remember what season it is, but go check that out. Blew my mind in that episode. And so an NBA team, I want to work with an international organization, whoever that is, but like not just an organization in another country, but an international organization, right?
Got you.
Um, you know what? I need to do a better job of writing down who I want to work with.
Yeah.
Now that you asked that question, I need to, I, I will work with anyone that sees the value in us and what we offer. But that will be a challenge for me to write down some organizations that I want to work with and start manifesting and working towards working with them. So I'm glad you asked
Absolutely.
that question. Yeah.
Okay. And as far as the basketball organization, how would the Poet Life and this organization collaborate?
Gotcha. Good question. So how I see poetry and how I understand poetry to be, poetry is a creative, attractive way to present a message, which means anybody and everybody needs that, right? Because everybody's trying to figure out a creative, attractive way to present their message. And everybody has a message, right? That means poetry can add value to any industry. So we see it all the time. The NBA connects itself to causes, but also they do a lot of introductions at the beginning of the game, the intermission of the game, the ending of the game, like blues. When folks were back outside after COVID, basically welcomed people back into the stadium at the Charlotte Hornets Stadium with a spoken word poem. Just like
Let's go.
dope spoken word poem with the music, atmospheric music in the background, different scenes of Charlotte. Basically, welcome back. COVID is over. We back outside basically, and that I was
It's
just like,
huge.
that's
Yeah.
huge for the
Wow.
NBA team to see the value in spoken word poetry, just poetry in general, and said, I think it would be dope to welcome the people back with a heartfelt spoken word piece in the middle of the at the half court line and different landmarks in Charlotte. Amazing, amazing.
Oh, okay, cool. It's full circle. I'm glad that we're interconnected too, because has been one of my mentors here in the Charlotte scene. He's one of the OG poets that I've followed throughout my poetry career for the past 4 years. So it was amazing to see him on the Poet Life podcast, and then to see you guys together, and then I'm
Yeah,
running into him out in public. It's just like, wow, we kind of like little, celebrities,
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
it's it's just a beautiful thing.
yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
but
So,
poetry is a fraternity slash sorority anyway. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So poetry is what connects us. So you can literally fly to a different country and say you're a poet, and they're like, "Oh, family, give me a hug." You know what I mean? And that's what ties us together. And so that's why I encourage poets. Listen, shoot somebody a DM and say you're a poet in this city, this state, this country. You would love to work with them in some way, form, or fashion, and watch their eyes light up. Like, oh,
yeah,
man, that's a poet from the United States. They want to work with me.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
It's
So,
major.
indeed.
Okay, cool. Do you have a favorite poet?
You know what? It's so interesting that you asked that. I don't do favorites. Like,
Okay.
I don't
Top
do
three.
favorites.
Top three.
Okay, okay, got you. I would have to say, oh man, that's hard.
Okay, I know Obi. I work with Obi. Yeah, he
Obi
gonna
West.
take you
That's
there.
all I'm saying. Y'all go follow Obi West. OBBIE West. Natural. He's a
Yeah,
natural.
he's gonna take you there.
Oh man, every time. Obi West, Brandon Leak.
Okay.
Not because he won, but because he's a beast. Because he's so versatile, it's crazy. Crazy. Um, man, who's third? Georgia Me in Atlanta.
Hmm.
Yeah, Georgia Me.
Okay. Shout out to the top three poets.
Yeah.
That's major. Now y'all got an accolade that y'all was shouted out by Christoph Jenkins on the Poet Life podcast.
Love
Yes,
it.
season 6, episode 1.
Yes,
Okay,
indeed.
cool. Cool. Let me see what else I got in the box for you. This is like a one-time thing, you know. So uh being the host and not on the other side, it's just like,
Right.
ooh,
Isn't it weird?
yeah. It's so many different avenues and lanes I can come at you from.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, be versatile with it because I know that, you are the CEO, but also you are a poet and you're
Yeah.
also a human being too, you know.
Right.
Let's
Right.
not forget that. So we
Indeed.
got to mix it all in there. So cool. I'm gonna hit you with this one. So wait, no, let me switch it up. Okay. Um Got you. So, in a universe full of poetry, what 3 lines would save humanity?
Ooh.
Poetic
5.
lines. Yeah.
3 poetic lines that would save humanity. All right. Okay. Now we're going freestyle time now.
Let's go.
I have to say, mm, it's finally time for us to work together. It looks like the weather has changed for the worse.
Mm.
Can get better. Only, and I mean only, if we work together. That's all I got for you on the freestyle too.
Okay. God, that just reminded me of Who Cloned Tyrone. Did you did you see that movie?
I saw, I don't know if it was because it was so late when I was watching it that it was a lot. I think I need to watch it again. I didn't make it through it because it was just a lot.
Yeah. Watch it again. It's definitely one of those, but I think that the world is on that vibration of realizing that it's time for us to come together.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. So no, I need to watch that again, and I need to also watch the new Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or something like that.
That was amazing. That was amazing.
Yeah, I need to
Yeah,
watch
go
it
to
again.
the movies to see that though. You need the full throttle experience.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
My wife and I tried to spend our, alone time, after we put the kids to bed, and we halfway tired, well, all the way tired. And so we're like, let's watch something. And then we'll throw something on. And then when it's like one of those, we're like, what is this? So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's probably not the best time to watch those types of movies. So I gotta get back into it. So but yeah, no, I like that question though.
Yeah. I think that that's a really important question because it lets me know what vibration you're on
Right.
as a human and where you're thinking. Not necessarily materialistic, not necessarily selfish, but more so selflessness because you're on the vibration of the collective, you
There
know.
you go. Well,
Yeah.
that's the mission. That's the mission of the poet. Like, it's not too many things that I can create wouldn't run through the community first, or just period. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what do y'all think of this? Or what I'm providing is adding value to the community. So yeah, now that's the headspace I'm in. I think I was just my brothers and I were just raised that way, you know. And it's community first, man, because without that, like, what do you have? There was no, there's no block parties. There's no, you know, the neighbor watching your kids and you watching their kid. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
without that, you don't have too much.
Yeah. A lot of the times we wouldn't even know what's going on if someone else didn't tell us. You know,
Yes.
a lot of the times we wouldn't have as many resources as we did if we weren't collectively pulling from one another, whether it be ideas, whether it be
Yes.
just realizations. I myself, I like to bring people to the level of understanding that money isn't everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when we come to that understanding, we know that the value is love, the value is community, the value is building relationships and connections. And I think that's one of the major things that I picked up on with the Poet Life. How, after we finish these projects with the clients, you're like, okay, that's not it. It never ends. How do you keep the relationship going? How do you add value? You always talk about adding value. How can we add value to the client? How can we continue this conglomerate? And I think that within itself creates more and more opportunities, not only just for us, but the other poets that we're breeding as well.
Yeah, it's relationships. It really is. Whether it is personal relationships, love relationships, business relationships. And so that's why I said it only takes one relationship, one opportunity to get this ball rolling, because even with that one relationship, like I told you with the school, my daughter's school, it extended to three other schools because of the relationship you had with that one person who also has a relationship with another person. Or when a project, an event is successfully done, you're now like, okay, how else can I serve you?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? This isn't all that I do. Because I'm a poet, I'm an octopus. Like, I'm a jellyfish with tentacles, which means I'm a poetry event planner. I am a creative strategist. Because I'm a poet, that makes me a creative mind. That means I have creative ideas that you can leverage, right? So I can sit in a meeting with you, and a meeting of your colleagues where you all are simply, discussing how you all need to grow, and I'm simply a fly on the wall just listening. And at the end of the meeting, I can tell you where you can do something better, or where you can. I know you're saying that the budget isn't large in this area, but we still need to get the books or get the laptops and things like that. Let me show you a creative way you can increase your budget, right? So when I'm able to articulate that, that's different.
Yeah. That's definitely lucrative on many levels. So I know we got a lot to delve into this season of the Poet Life, season 6. So can you give us a slight insight on what's in store for season 6?
Oh man, it's so good. It's so good. I like Marvel a lot. Marvel
Okay.
Studios. I just watched Eternals last night, and I knew nothing of Eternals. I was never a comic book person, right? So all of these, it's new to me. Eternals and Avengers, and so I just appreciate how Marvel has created their own world in worlds.
Right.
worlds, characters, and that's how I see the poet life, and that's how
Mm,
I'm presenting the podcast. And this is like my format or my way of presenting the origin story. You know how they will do a movie, right?
yeah,
And then go back
yeah,
and you'll see all of the characters' stories and things of that nature and
yeah.
how it
I
all
love that.
came to be. So that's how I'm seeing how we go forward. I see us reconnecting with Brandon Leak because we had the opportunity, the auspicious opportunity to interview him like the night before his winning episode of the Golden Buzzer and everything, where everybody found out he won the night before, right? But we never had the opportunity to follow up with him to see how things are and have been going for him. So reconnecting with Brandon Leak, but not just. Here's the thing: the best part about the Poet Life podcast, we focus on the poetry industry, and that means we're connected to other industries. So we're going to show through conversation with guests how poetry can add value to so many other industries by inviting other industries to have conversations with us, and we can discuss how poetry can be functional and add value to them. So really
Mm,
exciting. You won't just see poets, you'll see CEOs. And I mean, I think it was season 3 that we had for Forbes magazine as a guest.
wow.
Right? So it's going to be awesome. I'm excited.
Okay, awesome. Me too. Seems like we're definitely up in the ante on season 6 and bringing everything full circle. So I'm excited to continue to be a part of the Poet Life team and bring all of my valuable insight and leadership skills. I'm actually embarking on the journey of focusing more on myself as a poet,
Yeah.
opposed to me hosting these events and spotlighting everyone else and building everyone else. It's time to build Portia the poet. So I'm studying, I'm learning, I'm literally I'm a leader within the department, the social media department with the Poet Life, but I'm a student. Um,
Yeah.
Working alongside yourself. So I like to personally say thank you so much for just trusting me to have this conversation with you and open up season 6. It's been such a pleasure.
Oh, for sure. And we got to have our 101s once a month, right?
For sure.
Because I know you have it in you. You have the skill set. You have what it takes to create a life that you want to live. It may take some guidance and some help and some, experience from another, like maybe myself, or but I, I can definitely see it happening. And if I have anything to do with it, I'm gonna help you make it happen.
I appreciate that. I'm totally looking forward to that. I forgot that the monthly meetups. I forgot all about them, but I'm about to
We
start
gotta we
hopping right
gotta
on that.
schedule those. Yeah, for
Okay,
sure. Yeah,
cool.
because it's
I'm with that.
intentional work. Yeah. So I'm excited um, for your future, because here's the thing: not only it behooves me to help you, right? Because as I often say, it's best for me to partner with another entity than to partner with an individual.
Right.
So to help enhance and evolve you and transform you into that strong entity will only help and enhance the entity of the Poet Life.
Absolutely.
Right. So when I'm in conversations with the organizations, I can say that, yeah, the Poet Life is in partnership with Lyrical Healing LLC, who's also our media director. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Instead
It sounds
of
real good.
just
Yeah.
a person's name, they're like, okay, who's
Right.
that person's name? Right. So it sounds and looks and feels and works better.
Absolutely.
So let's grow lyrical healing, and let's grow together. I'm excited to work with you for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm affirming that.
Hmm. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Listen, y'all. This was just episode one. Listen. I'll be transparent, and Lula doesn't even know this. Before I pressed record, I was like, man, it's been a year and a half. Might push this like till next week. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't
Mm,
know if I'm ready. I don't know if the podcast is ready. But then I was just like, relax, bro. Relax. It's time. Let's jump
yeah.
in.
Let's
And
do it.
however ugly it is, we're going to work to make it pretty. Right?
Move
So
with the breeze.
we're gonna start however that looks, and we're just going to keep enhancing it until it looks amazing. So I'm just excited. I don't know if y'all can see the difference in our presentation, but just 1 week ago, I just updated the home office into the Now podcast studio here. Got the greenery wall over here. I
Looking
painted my
good.
back wall. My wife let me paint the back wall black. Uh, I don't know if she changed her mind yet, but hey, it's black already. So, yeah, I think it looks good. Y'all let me know in the comments what you think, if you can see the difference, if you saw previous episodes. But I'm looking forward to moving forward and growing and, imparting some knowledge through myself, but also through the guests that we have conversations with. So, Lula, thank you so much for being a great sport and being a host. Now, here's the thing: it only takes one opportunity to see how awesome you are in this space as a host.
Yeah.
So y'all gonna see Lula doing a whole lot more. As a matter of fact, now that we're talking about it, so again, I never do anything that's successful one time. It has to progress into something. So Lula, even when in the vein of Marvel, you know how they do spin-offs and things of that nature. So we're going to do a spin-off. So Lula, now that she's a host, in this episode, she will now be hosting Behind the Poet Life. It's a it's an Instagram show, possibly transforming into a YouTube show, but it's an Instagram show where she'll be interviewing all those who work behind the scenes of the poet life going forward. And she'll be interviewing me, other team members, and we'll be discussing like the ins and outs of working on certain projects and events and things of that nature. So you all can see the
Yeah.
BTS, the behind the scenes and things of that nature. So I'm excited about that. So what do you
Yeah.
think about that? You excited?
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I think that that's going to give us a movie feel that makes me think of like the Poet Life movie.
Yes.
That just brings it all into big screen. All of this film and production that we're doing, because that's a part of a production. We'll have to have a treatment for that, just like I had, a mini treatment for how our conversation would flow tonight. So I think that it's just all working a part of the bigger plan in the Poet Life multiverse.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's
I like that.
awesome.
Yeah.
Look, y'all, welcome back, everybody. A lot has happened. We now have the Poetry Business Network. The Poetry Business Network is a network of poets around the world. We have about 144, I believe, so far in a Facebook group. So we want to invite you. It's no cost to you. We do daily challenges called the Poetry Business Challenge early in the morning, 9 a.m. on Instagram at The Poet Life. But in that Facebook group, you can get the challenges, you can connect with poets, you can ask questions on your journey, how to do a thing, how to get a resource, whatever it might be. We just want to be a community to assist each other and connect with each other. So I encourage you to go to poetrybusinessnetwork.com. It will take you straight to the Facebook group and join us, and let's have a conversation. Let's keep the conversation going on a daily basis, so we don't have to do this alone. That's the biggest thing. So many poets try to do this alone, and it takes longer, and it almost is impossible, right? So we encourage you to connect with us. Our website is thepoetlife.com. Again, everything on social media is The Poet Life. And I am Christoph Jenkins, and this is Lula, our media director, and we're so glad to be back. It's The Poet Life, folks. We're out.